Welcome to the Six Figure Influencer Podcast. I am so happy you are here. It has been quite the week over here. I did something this week that I haven't done in a really, really long time, and I'm very proud of myself. I hosted a masterclass. I did the 3 Codes to Unlock Your Chart Ranking podcast masterclass. I did that as I record this. It was yesterday. And it was so much fun. I used to do a lot of master classes actually. And back when I did them, it was kind of the thing that you did. It was kind of just like a rule of thumb, like this very popular strategy that most people did. So like, okay, I'm going to do it too. And the way that I was taught to do master classes was this very masculine, regimented, formulaic way of teaching, where you have a slide deck and you have this exact way to present the information. And, it very like what felt robotic and beyond exhausting, like beyond. And I did so many in that way that I got super burnout. I grew to despise master classes. And I was like, I will never do these again. Unless I figure out a new way to do them that feels good for me. I'm just never. And I believe in master classes because I attend master classes frequently. And I've seen them done in other ways that are not like completely the opposite of what I just described to you. But it just never really felt like the right time for me to finally put one out there. And then recently it was like, okay, I have this idea. I get requested all the time to talk about how I've been ranking in the podcast and how I monetize the podcast and all things. So I wanted to create things for that. And it just felt like the right time to do a masterclass. And I rolled the dice. I said, okay, we're going to give it another shot. But this time I'm going to do it in a way that feels so good for me, which looked like me creating a standard outline like I normally would, no slides, and just having fun promoting it. We had an amazing turnout. It was the best energy. And I'm really, really thankful that I gave it another shot. And that was a lot of fun. And the reason why I bring up the masterclass, which by the way, if you missed it and you want to hear the 3 Codes to Unlock Your Chart Ranking podcast, this is for aspiring and current podcasters. You can get that. We'll link it in the show notes. It's free. So check it out. Very, very juicy. And by the way, little rule of thumb for anybody who aspires to do masterclasses, or maybe you do masterclasses, but you feel like you haven't quite found your groove. Something that I like, the way that I teach it and the way that I now host masterclasses, and I did this before too, but it was just the delivery that I didn't like. But like this masterclass that I just hosted was free. And a lot of people have weird connotations about that. Like I used to be like, I don't want to go. Why would I go to a free masterclass? Because it's like, okay, if it's free, it can't be that good. It can't be that great of information, right? If it's free. So I used to kind of like shy away from masterclasses too. And then, you can charge for them, which is fine. And there's truly arguments for doing free ones and charging some amount for a masterclass. It really just depends. But once I started seeing the women that I look up to and how they delivered masterclasses and seeing like sometimes they did charge very low ticket or lower ticket. And a lot of times it was free, but the way that they showed up was like, you paid $1,000 to be there. That's what it felt like. And I'm like, yes, that's the vibe of a masterclass. That's exactly what you should do. If you're going to host a masterclass, whether you charge $0 for it, $50 for it, $100 for it, doesn't matter. Conduct it in a way like you charge $1,000 a seat. Because when you do that, you are going to blow people's minds, because typically we all know what a masterclass is for. You present some form of value, obviously the value that you promote for the masterclass, right? I'm going to give you 3 tips on this thing. I'm going to tell you the things to do for this thing. You give that. And then typically it's going to lead to some sort of complimentary offer, of course, right? But some people, I think they forget, like they think, oh, well, I'm doing this for free, so I don't need to try that hard, or I don't need to whatever. But the thing is, if you show up again, as if you just sold $1,000 seat at this masterclass, it's going to be, I mean, can you imagine the difference of energy if you walk in like that, if you conduct and host the masterclass in that energy versus like, oh, this is free, so it doesn't even really matter. Like, even if it isn't that good, like they didn't pay. I mean, that is like, you can't get further from those energies. Like, it's so, so different. So just a little tip there. If you ever want to host a masterclass, that is the vibe. And that was my goal for this. And I feel good about it. So anyway, the reason why I bring up masterclasses is because in that one, I shared, the 3 codes to unlock, blah, blah, blah. And the very first code I got into, and I got a comment in the chat box, and the comment said, hey, you should do a podcast on this because it could be applied to literally anything in life. And I was like, say no more, fam. Thank you. That's exactly what I should do and what I will do. And here I am delivering on that. So I forget the angel who gave me this idea. So whoever, you know who you are, thank you so much for giving me that idea. And here it is. Let's go ahead and let's get into it. So the premise, like how I delivered this in the masterclass, was like 3 codes to unlock this thing, right? And a code is just like this, like rule, this lesson, this like, once you get it, it unlocks the next level for you. So what this was like, how I presented this was like, okay, if you want to create, in this example, a chart ranking podcast, the first thing you need to unlock for yourself is this expectation of instant proof and results. Okay. And the reason why is because there's this crazy statistic that only 20% of podcasts that have launched this year will make it to next year. And that's like this average yearly stat. Like 80% of new podcasts fall away year after year. And the reason why is because they haven't unlocked this, like they have this expectation of instant proof and results. There's a few other things going on there too. So the code to unlock this, and what we're going to talk about today, because again, like it's so true, this code can be applied to so many things, especially in business. So of course, we're going to talk about it through the lens of business today. But the code to unlock that is what I call detachment, commitment, positive expectancy. So detachment times commitment times positive expectancy. That's the code, that's the sequence, that's the formula that unlocks this possibly detrimental expectation of instant proof and results, whether it be in a podcast, whether it be in a business. You can apply this to setting big goals and like going really, for the big thing in your life. You could talk about this for businesses. I mean, like, relationships, really anything. Because oftentimes, like, why do people quit things? Why do we quit our businesses before we even give it a chance to, like, a real fighting chance to win? Why do we fall back in relationships? We set a standard that we think that we want, and then we go backwards. Why do we say we want this big goal in our business and, act as if and align ourselves to that for a short amount of time, and then it gets hard, and then we go backwards and we say, never mind, maybe whatever. And why is because one, false expectation of results, right? You assume or there's part of you like subconsciously that's like, okay, I want this thing so long as I get proof that it's coming. I want this thing as long as the results come like really, really, really soon. Otherwise, like I cannot hold this energy. So that's a part of it. Um, the lack of long-term commitment. You go into something and you want the sexy part of it. It sounds fun. It looks good on her. It looks like a good time, but energetically, the people that don't stay the course in business and podcasts and whatever, usually it's because they haven't committed. They haven't like fully committed. And what that means is there's some sort of time commitment. Either there's a time commitment or it's like, I'm not going anywhere, period. And like, that's how I am in business. There's not like, I'm not like testing this out for 10 years and I'm gonna be like, I'll see how I feel after 10 years. It's like, no, I'm here. Unless, hopefully this doesn't happen, but like, God willing, hopefully nothing happens to me. But like, as long as nothing happens to me, I'm not going anywhere. I'm committed. I'm in this thing. So that's a reason, a lot of people lack that. They don't even take the time, or like really just energetic. Like there's a big difference in somebody who is just kind of like testing it out, like, oh yeah, we'll see, and doesn't really tell a lot of people. And like, oh, we'll see, and they're like fingers crossed so they get some results so they can stay in the game. And then they're like, this is too hard. Versus again, the person who's like, no, I'm doing this. Period. That's it. And another reason why a lot of people like they quit or they whatever, they don't follow through on the thing that they actually want is sometimes there simply just isn't enough passion, right? A lot of things you don't know until you don't know what you don't know. So yeah, part of it is like you thought it would be cool and you just simply don't have the passion, and that's fine. Like if you try something out and it's not for you, don't stay in it. So unless we're talking about like parenting or marriage, but yeah, like sometimes there's just not enough passion, or and I see this a lot, not enough faith in the process. So usually it's some sort of mix. Like the reason why people don't follow through on the thing that they actually say that they want, or like that next level, like the reason why they're not hitting it is because false expectation of results and or lack of commitment, lack of long-term commitment, and or not enough passion, and or not enough faith in the process. Part of them doesn't believe that they are the type of person that could actually rise to the top, that could actually hit that goal, that could actually grow that level of business. Again, like it's fun to talk about, it's sexy, it's it feels good. It feels good to dream about and whatever, but like something deep down is like, she can do it, but we're not the same. So the code, if you find yourself in any type of situation in your life where you're experiencing this, you're like, okay, this hits, this lands. 10-4. I see this in my life in some way. Okay. What do we do? As long as I would say like the one thing to check is like, are you passionate about the thing? Okay. If so, if it's good for you, like if it's, as long as there's no like serious red flags, like if it makes sense for you to actually stay in, cool. The code to get back in the game and stay in the game is this code of detachment times commitment times positive expectancy. So what does that mean? So we're going to break each of these down. So to me, this is like you put these three things together, these three ideas, codes, energies together, and you're able to hold them and maintain them as much as possible, you're going to not only stay in the game longer, you're going to find longevity in your commitments. But in my experience, you start seeing results faster, which is so crazy. And I believe that like fully it's all of it, but I think a lot of it, the detachment and the positive expectancy. So let's break each of these down. Detachment, the first piece. So this expectation, this false expectation of results. It's like, okay, yeah, I want this thing, but I, I need to get these things really, really fast. This result. I need to be the type of person that gets this result really fast. Otherwise, I'm going to be embarrassed. Otherwise, it's not worth it. Otherwise, whatever your story is. So we get like super attached to timelines, the expectations, people's viewpoints of ourselves. What you get like really, it's really easy to do to be like, okay, I have to do this in a month. I have to do this in X amount of time or in this perfect way or whatever that looks like. And in my experience, especially in my industry, which is online business, when we're going, like a lot of us here, if you're listening to this, you're going for really big things, likely, or like really big for you. So in my experience, any level of detachment to timelines, to expectations, to anything like that, the way that it should look, it's not going to be helpful because then you're just constantly looking over your shoulder. You have this clock that's constantly counting down and getting shorter and shorter and shorter, and the pressure mounts more and more and more. And then you get frustrated. And then what happens for most people is you start taking action out of alignment with the thing that you really want. So if you're able to detach and you're able to say, okay, I'm committed to this thing, which is the second piece of this code. I'm committed. So, whether can I hold space that I get this in a month? Absolutely. But if I don't, it's okay. I'm not going anywhere. I know positive expectancy. I know I'm the type of person like, of course I'm worthy of this. If she can do it, I can do it. So it truly is just like a matter of time when it happens. And if I could dictate that time, if I could predict that time, I would be a gabillionaire, right? Nobody knows the exact time something's going to flow in, something's going to actually happen. So anytime you're able to like really detach from the when and sometimes a lot of times the how, and those kind of weird expectations that are so easy to put on ourselves, you're able to stay more cool, calm, and collected. You're able to stay more focused and more importantly, take that aligned action. So we talked about in episode 158, the episode is called How to Become an Energetic Match to What You Actually Want. We talk about like aligning yourself to the frequency of the result that you want. So the result that you want is at a certain frequency, and how you become a match to that frequency is by acting in accordance to what's a match of that frequency, acting as if. That's aligned action. I want this outcome. And I want to feel like that's important too. Like ultimately, everything that we want can be boiled down to like why we want it is because we think we're going to feel a certain way from having that thing. So that's really important too. I want to hit this goal because it's going to make me feel this way. I'll feel more freedom. I'll feel more ease. I'll feel more successful, more powerful, more established, more whatever. So how you align yourself to that is you start feeling those feelings now and taking those actions as if like what would be the action if that's really what you were going for? If you were that person who already has that result, who already feels established, who already feels supported in her business, who already feels freedom, would you take on that client? Would you charge that price point for that course? Would you invest in that mentor or would you not invest in that mentor? These are examples of or ways that you would take aligned action, which would align you more to that thing. So, detachment is magical in allowing yourself to tap into the cool, calm, collected, wise, emotionally intelligent version, the most emotionally intelligent version of yourself who can access that level of knowing. Okay, if I was at that level now, which like, what is time? We're not going to get into that conversation, but yeah, there's a version of me at that level that exists right now. So like, how would she act in this moment? You're able to access that more, the less pressure you have on yourself in most cases. In most cases, once you get, the more practice you get, you can handle lots, more pressure, but detachment really, really helps with that. The second piece, so that's detachment, commitment, positive expectancy. The second piece of this is the commitment piece, which we've kind of already talked about. So, like with the podcast example, 20%, only 20% of new podcasts are going to make it to the end of the year. Then it's like, okay, if you're going to test out podcasting, maybe you don't know if you're going to love it. Maybe you don't know if you're going to want to do this for the long haul. But if you're going to try, give it at least a year and a half. If we know that most podcasts don't make it past a year, like let's set a year and a half then, So for you, whether it's your business or something, if it helps you to put a timeline on it, but then like give yourself fully to the thing. Like truly, truly commit. There's a really, really, really big difference in, I mean, like if we were to use relationships, for example, right? Like there's a big difference in a couple that's married, but like still testing out the waters with other people, unless they're, that's their agreement, which, to each their own. But like there's a big difference in saying like, yeah, I commit to this for forever, but not acting in alignment with what you're saying. So the commitment, like for me, it's not, in my business, it's like, I'm here. My business will evolve. I'm going to evolve. So it's not going to always look the same, but regardless of how bad it could get or whatever, like this, I'm not going anywhere. I'm not going to go get a job. Are you kidding me? This is no. So there's that decisiveness, like that energy of like, I'm in this thing through the hard, through the fun, through the stressful, through the confusing, like all of the times, all of the in between, I'm in. So like when those things come up, it's not a question, right? It's not like if I'm having a bad month, it's not like, oh, should I even be doing this? Because then you start looking for an out. So again, I feel like depending on what we're talking about here, maybe you're listening to this conversation for your business, which most are, or it could be anything that like is really standing out to you. You get to decide, okay, I'm going to give myself X amount of time, but like, if I'm committing to this, I'm in it. Like I'm not just saying I am, I'm absolutely in it. That long game strategy, right? I don't know when the results are going to come, but I'm going to be here for a really long time. So there's really no pressure on the timeline. I would like them to come soon, and I'm going to do the things to make sure that they come as soon as possible, right? I'm not just like dicking around over here, but like I'm detached from the exact timeline and I am here for the long game. That is magic. Like just those two right there, a formula for success. Now, you want to sprinkle some gasoline on that flame, you throw in some positive expectancy. So this is where you truly believe it's coming. You just know, like, however you have to get there, whatever that looks like, whether like for me, it took seeing other women who are just a few steps ahead of me, hitting these levels of business that I didn't even know was like a thing in our industry. And seeing that and first being triggered, like, what the frick? What are they doing? Shifting and doing the inner work to get to the point of like, oh, it's on. Like that's proof of what's available for me too. And then through that work, so it takes some work. You may not be to the point where you're like, I believe I am the type of person to hit X number of, X $1,000 a month or X figure business or get featured in blah, blah, blah magazine. So work around that. How do we get there? How do we build that belief in yourself? Get to the point where you're like, again, if she can do it, if somebody can do it, I can do it. Or if you're really a boss, I'm going to blaze the trail for everybody. Nobody's done it. And I'm going to be the first. Somebody has to be the first. So this positive expectancy, it is so, again, like just the detachment and the commitment alone is a recipe for success. I truly believe. I mean, and of course, like, again, while you're committed to the things, you're doing the right thing. Like commitment to me in business means that you're actually showing up and doing the work. Otherwise, like, what does that even, like, you're not committed. You're in it, but you're not doing the work, or like so you're actually like doing the things that you need to be doing, and you're actively going after the strategy that works for you. And the positive expectancy, the sprinkle of the amplifier of all of that is this like, and it's coming. I know it's only a matter of time until this clicks for me. I don't know when. I don't care when, because I'm not going anywhere, but it's going to happen and it's going to be fabulous. And it's just going to be just a fraction of what I realize that I'm actually capable of. In the masterclass, I talk of what I have coined the law of cream rises to the top. And I shared this in the masterclass because something like a thing that I hear a lot with when I talk to women who are thinking about doing a podcast, a common objection that I get and like this insecurity that comes up is like, yeah, but everybody's starting a podcast, or there's so much competition. And this is where the law of cream rises to the top. And this is so true in the coaching industry, in the online space. I mean, most spaces people would think are saturated at this point. Like everybody wants to, not everybody, a lot of people want to have businesses like this or want to figure it out, because why would you not? It's a freaking vibe. Like we have the best job in the world. The fact that this is what I do for a living, I can't even wrap my head around it. So yeah, a lot of people want to do this, but that doesn't matter, because just like the podcast, like that statistic, only 20% of new podcasts actually make it to the end of the year. I don't know what the statistic is for business, but I would bet it's probably very similar, especially in the online world, because people don't get this, because they don't do the detachment, the commitment, the positive expectancy. Like they're just not there yet, or they don't have the passion or whatever. So first of all, who freaking cares what anybody else is doing? Like put your blinders up. What, you're not going to live your life to the fullest because somebody else is? I don't think so. So that's number one. But number two, if you decide, like fully decide you're going to do something and you fully commit to doing that thing and you work hard at it and you show up every day and give your freaking best, whatever that is at the time. That may not mean that it's as good as somebody else's yet, but it is your best for right now. If you keep doing that committedly, guess what's going to happen? Your best is going to get even better. And that will get even better. Like you will continue to grow. So a perfect example is go scroll my podcast to some of the first few episodes. Scroll just 50 episodes ago. This podcast is a spoken diary where you can hear in real time my growth. of like purely just showing up and giving my best every single week. My best at week 1 was not very good, but it was my best. And if I had looked around and said, and compared myself like, holy crap, this is my best, but look at Jenna Kutcher. Look at freaking Amy Porterfield over here. James Wedmore. Like, if I had compared myself to them, I would have quit. I would have been one of the 80% that fell away. But you have to have this positive expectancy that if you are committed and you give your best, it's going to click into place and the cream rises to the top. This is true in podcasts. This is true in business. This is true in, I don't know, let's just say most things. I'm just going to say it. Who knows? But definitely true in business. Definitely true in podcasts and so many other scenarios. The cream rises to the top. If you're not going anywhere and you're constantly bettering yourself and you're constantly practicing and you have your blinders up, you're not comparing yourself, like you're going to rise. It's impossible not to. So hear that. If you need to borrow that confidence for yourself, borrow it and expect that can be true for you. Because let me tell you something. If it's true for me, it's 100% true for you. Don't look at me now 3 years into a podcast. Don't look at me now 5, 6 years into entrepreneurship and compare yourself. Like, that's not fair. I've been doing this every day. And the only difference between me and somebody who didn't make it is I just didn't quit. That's the only difference. It wasn't that I was better or smarter or anything. I just committed. And I knew at some point that it was going to work, and it is. And I, over time, was able to detach from the false expectations and timelines. Not perfectly. That it's like all of this is active work. You're going to have to do work on this in all of these areas, especially in business and anything worth doing. It's going to take some mindset work and some reminding, because not every day is fun and feels like a good time. So the code to unlock this killer of the expectation of instant proof and results is detachment times commitment times positive expectancy. That's the code. Apply that code to anything and watch yourself freaking blow your mind in perfect divine timing. Detach from the timing. It'll all be perfect. I love you. I hope you enjoyed this. I believe in you. I hope you believe in yourself. If you enjoyed this, let me know. DM me, drop me a review, come say hi. Either way, I hope I will see you here next week.